If someone wanted to start a studio now, and I kind of think this is a little unfortunate because I think there's a difference between your entertainment ability and your ability to teach a great class or run a great business. I do think, though, now it is important to be an entertainer in some way on social media. It used to just be like, I have a great method and I'm smart, but I do see that there is a marriage between what would be considered like your personal life or your personal journey on Instagram and your studio success.
This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, hosted by Krissy Vann. Together, we're uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. Today, I'm joined by Jennifer Maanavi, co-founder and CEO of Physique 57, a boutique fitness company that's expanded to 4 countries and built a strong digital presence, reaching clients in over 120 countries. With over 20 years of success in the health, wellness, and financial services industries, Jennifer has deep insights into what it takes to create a successful fitness studio in 2024. On the episode, we'll explore the biggest lessons she's learned along the way, what keeps boutique fitness thriving in a competitive market, and her takes on strategic planning and growth. But before we get to it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry thought leaders and influencers. I'm your host, Krissy Vann, and this is ATFW. Well, I'm so thrilled to be sitting with you, Jennifer, because we had the opportunity to cross paths in the halls of Capitol Hill, where, of course, your role that day was to really amplify the message of the fitness industry in regards to our impact on mental, social, physical wellness, with the ultimate goal of getting more people moving. So first of all, thank you so much for reconnecting with me and lending time today.
My pleasure. I'm so glad we met.
I'm so glad as well, because I was within your group and I got a little glimpse of your story and I was like, I need to hear all the details and behind it, because I love stories of people that felt a calling, took a leap, and had a pivot. So let's go a little bit back in time here to 2005. You're crushing it on Wall Street and something grabs your attention. What happens here?
Yes. So I was a dancer growing up and through high school and a bit in college, but not too much in college. But I always felt like I had kind of a dancer's body, or I wanted to have a dancer's body. And I had this intuition, as dancers often do, of the mind-body connection and what's kind of good for your body or not so great for your body. So throughout my 20s, after college, I was living in New York City, and I experimented with a couple of gyms, and they were fine. Like, I nothing against any of the gyms, but doing a step class or doing just some kind of like a, I don't know, random, I guess, group exercise class was fun. But I thought, is this what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? Like, I don't really know that I'm stepping forever. And this is like the mid 90s, but it was fine. And it was all I knew. So then I went to business school and I got a little busy. So I didn't work out much. And then as I was graduating, I started to ask friends, inquire again about exercise. Like, oh, is anyone exercising? And like, what are you guys doing? And this is again in Manhattan. And someone mentioned this dancer-esque modality called the Lottie Burke method, which is what we would now know as a bar method. But at the time, it was just called the Lottie Burke method. And it was described appropriately as strenuous with an emphasis on toning and an emphasis on stretching, and that it was, again, strenuous, emphasis on strenuous. And I thought, well, I haven't worked out in a really long time. It sounds really good. I also like that you didn't have to wear sneakers, because even though I had been athletic and was running from time to time, I was like, oh, that's a nice change that you actually don't wear sneakers. And I tried it. And this is August or summertime, kind of August of 2000. And I just fell in love. I mean, within 10 minutes, I thought this is the best exercise for me. Maybe not for everyone in the whole world, but for me, this is the best form of exercise that I think I've ever found. And I thought to myself as I was driving away, this is in the Hamptons. Lottie Burke was in New York City and also the Hamptons. And as I was driving away, I was thinking, I think I might do this like forever and ever. And I bought a package. I went back. And then I continued to go back 4 or 5 times a week for 5 years. And even when I got back, I remember from my honeymoon, I went straight to Lottie Burke. So like I was addicted. And I thought it was fantastic. And then really just very quickly what happened was she had a lease that the landlord did not want to renew. She'd been in the same space for about 25 years. So she was kind of stuck, the owner, and she didn't want to go rebuild a whole new studio. And so she decided to just leave. And I approached her and she said, I don't quite know what I'm going to do with this business, but if you wanted to start something similar, you know, you have my blessing. And also there's a great teacher that I have who's very smart and entrepreneurial, and you two might hit it off, and you could give her a call. And she just gave me a post-it, and I called Tanya, and now it's August, actually 2005, and I gave Tanya a phone call and on a little flip phone, like there was no Zoom or anything back then. And I introduced myself. I actually didn't know Tanya just because our schedules were different at the studio. And it took a couple months, but I convinced her to try to have 2.0 of the Lottie Burke method. It wasn't illegal. Like we didn't buy the Lottie Burke method. We didn't really take anything. Like there was nothing to take. It was really just this post-it that I had of Tanya. So I said, "You want to start something similar?" And we did. So we actually that was in August, and we incorporated in 2000 in October and started teaching in November. So it was all really quick.
There's so many things that I like about that story. One, it's really what we try to preach so much in this industry, how there's not just one, this is your recipe to get movement and physical activity. And I think what happens sometimes for consumers, they've tried something in the past, didn't quite resonate, and then they think, oh, exercise isn't for me. If it's not something that they grew up practicing. And to your point, you try all these different modalities and then all of a sudden you have that one where you're like, yes, I want to keep coming back over and over again because I get so much out of the experience and it's fun to do. So to start a business out of something that's resonating so deeply, we know is such a powerful combination. But I'm curious because working in the fitness industry doesn't sound like it was quite the path that you were on at the time. It was Wall Street. So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit more about that leap because that's not a small decision.
No, it was a huge leap. But it was a leap, but I think there was something in the back of my mind that suggested that perhaps the Wall Street lifestyle was going to be challenging. I had a 1-year-old at the time, and I was working, which really I don't want to call this crazy hours or anything, but you do work. At the time, it was suggested, let's say, that I work from about 7 to 7 or 7:30 to 7:30. And once you're in that routine, it actually doesn't seem like a lot. So I'm not complaining about long hours. In fact, I've worked a lot longer hours as an entrepreneur. It's just that those were the same hours that my son was awake.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
hard.
just it's just a tough 12-hour in a row to be working when you have a small child. So it wasn't that I was out looking for an entrepreneurial endeavor. It just in the back of my mind, I was thinking like, how am I going to like, how is this all going to work out? And I was happy in the financial services industry. I just wasn't clear to me how I was going to really build a career that way. And this is also, before remote work and you didn't like work from home on Mondays. Like it didn't, you didn't have any of those flexible options. So you either worked 100% or you didn't work. And maybe there were some of those options, but not apparently to me they were not apparent to me at Morgan Stanley. So so leaving seemed natural, and doing, and I did, and just a funny thing is my two favorite movies growing up were one was Flashdance and one was Working Girl with Melanie Griffith when she's working on Wall Street. And I was able to combine the two. I was like, oh, this is great. Like I was doing the Working Girl thing, but now I can add the flash dance to it. So I was really, really, so it didn't seem that strange to me, really. Looking back, I think it sounds very strange, but at the time, this was just like a natural progression. And I was 100% sure it was going to work, like 100%. So I had no second thoughts, and I just went for it. And I quit my job and I just jumped in, and thank goodness it worked out. But it was a great experience.
Yeah, without a doubt. And how incredible to have those moments where you're like, everything in me is green light. We don't get gifted a lot of those. So I think that's really cool that you
Hmm.
had that behind you because regardless of whether it felt like a natural leap or not, especially when you have a young family, there's lots to consider when we're making these decisions. And you obviously worked hard for a career in financial services as well. So there's a lot to entertain of switching things up. That being said, obviously a tremendous amount of knowledge as you're coming into this new space. So I'm curious, having that Wall Street experience, how did it help you when it came to this entrepreneurial journey? And what tools maybe were you willing to break up with aside from the 7 to 7 schedule?
Yeah. So I would say, the one thing that was helpful was just like the pace of my work day. So I had gone from college right to Wall Street and then to business school, back to Wall Street. I actually worked while I went to school also. So I was just like a worker. And so the hours that an entrepreneur has to put in. Also, I was raising a child and, up at 2 in the morning, feeding babies and stuff like that. So like none of this was different. When people say like, oh, it was so hard, like everything in my life has been so hard. Like the last 10 years have been so hard. So the the stamina and the problem solving and the flexibility and the dynamic nature of starting a business, like for some reason none of that seemed difficult to me. Like it was just already what I was doing. So I'm thankful for that. What was really fun about it was we're helping to create this category. There was no such thing as boutique fitness back then. The term bar for this form of exercise didn't exist either. So this was just Jennifer and Tanya have some idea to open up an exercise studio. And what was so odd was that we were going to teach the same method all day. No one had done like that. Like this is before Soul Cycle.
Right.
This is before Flywheel. This is before a lot of things. And they were like, wait, so you're going to teach one thing that no one's ever heard of all day? Like, yeah, I guess I am, but like you're going to love it. so so there was this kind of mix for me of tried and true just business practices and just kind of going at it at 100%, but then this pleasure of creating something that no one had ever heard of and doing everything for the first time, like meeting with the branding agency. They thought I was crazy. Meeting with the commercial real estate woman, luckily she was the client, so she knew what I was trying to do, but the accountant thought I was crazy, the lawyer thought I was crazy. No one understood what I was doing, really, except for Tanya and my real estate broker.
Wow. That says a lot for yourself on stamina and character, though, to still have that resolute when so many people are being like, hey, are you sure? Do you want to have
Are
a
you
think
sure?
about this? Right. And
Yes.
you're just kind of
Yeah.
like, no, I see it. So I'm going to bring it to reality. So, on that note, when you talk about the timing of all of this, I mean, Facebook had just started, Instagram didn't come into play till 2011, like all these avenues that we use to accelerate our exposure, we didn't really have. It was more that traditional media landscape. So the fact that you had to not only acquire clients, but you also had to educate a lot of them into what you were all about, how did you approach that?
Yes, and that was hard. So we only gathered names like if people had them. Like I took out the receptionist from the former studio and she was like jogging her memory for people's names. So she's like, I think there's someone named Betty. Like literally, we had no names. Tanya, over the years, she'd been a teacher, a top teacher for 10 years. So she had a list, maybe like 30 or 40 names on a piece of paper. We hired another trainer. Because that business closed down, there was an opportunity to hire somebody else. And she had like post-its over time. So one day I took all these post-its and I went to Kinko's and I photocopied the post-its. So there was like 3 or 4 post-its per page. So we had like, I don't know, 30 or so pages of these people just writing their phone numbers down for us. So that was that was our version of Dropbox, was basically put post-its on a piece of paper and make photocopies
Incredible.
of them and then hope you don't lose it. There was no scanners then or anything like that. You just like held on to these pieces of paper like dear life. And we just started calling. We would just call these people and say hi. And we didn't have a corporate name, for a while. So I was just like, I'm Jennifer and Tanya's back in town. And it was really just kind of called Tanya's back and we're teaching again. And like, we don't have a name. And we started to teach actually at a dance studio called the Martha Graham Dance Studio in the basement. And it was just $20 a class. And I had a little cash box. And if you found us and you had heard about us, and if we had called you, you could come take class for $20 and I would just take your money.
Well, obviously it worked because you've scaled this thing to quite a phenomenal measure. So talk to me a little bit about when that fire was stoked where this is actually now a business and something that we can grow.
Yeah, so that was, thank goodness. So here's what's interesting, and I'm not disappointed that we have social media. I mean, it's great in many ways for businesses, but at the time, you didn't really have any way except to call people and go up to the front desk and say hi when they walked in, and we had, I think, constant contact or something like that. Like we've sent out emails. A lot of them just came. We didn't have enough people. I could just send them from my own email in the beginning. So it's just like, hi, I'm Jennifer, and we have a studio. I heard you used to go to Lottie Burke. Would you like to come in? So
Amazing.
we built it really one client at a time, personally. Now, of course, you can't scale, you know, for years doing that, but we didn't have a lot of competition or a lot of noise. There really wasn't noise in the market. Um, I mean, we probably thought at the time there was noise, but nothing like what there is now. And we didn't have Facebook. I don't think we really started using Facebook till like 2008 or nine for business, maybe. Um, so it was really, we just like grew it through word of mouth. And the way that we knew that we were doing well was just the people coming in. And we were also on the eighth floor of a building in Midtown, an art gallery building. So there was no signage or anything. And so the only way you would know about it is if someone told you about it. And there was a couple things that happened that I thought were signs to me that things were working well. So I was in the elevator. It was a very tiny, tiny elevator. And I was in the elevator with someone who was on the phone calling a friend. And it sounded like the friend said, "Where are you?" or where were you? And she says, "I'm not going to tell you where I am because it's already so crowded. I don't want you to know." And I thought, well, that's like, actually, I do want you to tell your friend. But I guess from a marketing standpoint, that is nice that you want, like, it's already so
Yeah,
crowded.
it's an excellent problem.
Yes, excellent. So she perceived, of course, we all know that like I could have fit more people in, but her perception was that it was that crowded that we should probably not tell anybody else. So that elevator ride, when I left, I was leaving the building that night. I was like, okay, I think we're on to something. And then the numbers sort of spoke for themselves. And then we were very, very lucky to get some celebrities, which at the time, again, not a lot of, we didn't have influencers or like Netflix famous people. You really
Right.
had like movie stars and supermodels. Like those were the famous people. And we luckily got a few of both. And that really helped. But it is much harder now to start a fitness studio with so much stuff. But before then, like you wanted to get in Vogue, which we did. Christy Turlington came, Kelly Ripa came, Sarah Jessica Parker came, a few other people came. While that was very hard, it was very obvious that those were the things you needed to do.
Yeah, it's credible. You're so right. Those were the early influencers for sure. Tell me a little bit about just personally how it felt to have that celebrity endorsement. I'm assuming that like did those happen organically where they just learned
Yeah,
about you and showed up? Incredible. So
yeah,
that's got to have been a big moment. That's a milestone for sure because your voice now amplified tenfold.
yes, it was really nice. And they found us like on either like a local. This is again, I mean, I sound like this was so long ago. It wasn't that long ago. It was
Well,
18
that's
years
the
ago,
wild
but
part. It's changed so quickly.
it's changed so much. But this is when you could be on like the local news at 5 o'clock and people actually watched it. So Sarah Jessica Parker found us watching New York One, which is the local TV station. It's like Channel One, and it just had like metropolitan New York City news. And that she was just eating breakfast, and then luckily we were on it, and she called at like 7:30 in the morning. So it was just so it was so grassroots, and it was so authentic, and it was just, we're going to teach this method and we're going to hope people find out about it, and maybe editors. We had a public relations firm, and we just like hoped that people would hear about us through several channels, which they did. And we then opened up a bunch of studios in New York and did some videos and DVDs, and went on QVC. And so we had the media side to leverage the fact that we had the celebrity following. We had a lot of publicity nationally, which was nice. So then we created DVDs to be able to sell them nationally. And another great opportunity was we sold our DVDs in all 50 states in 30 days. So that to me was also a sign that not only is this a New York City brand, but it can be a national brand.
And talk to me a little bit about that expansion, because not only have you gone national, you even transcend beyond that.
Yes, so we did a studio in Los Angeles, and instead of expanding internationally, we continued to expand in New York because the fitness scene here was just was going crazy. It was great, and then over time, many of our a handful of our New York City clients were moving home, having had babies or just growing up, decided to move back to where they had been, where their families were. So we had an opportunity to open studios in a couple of other countries. So at the height of pre-pandemic, at the height of it all, we were in Dubai, Bangkok, and Dubai.
Incredible. I mean, that really, it doesn't surprise me because, as I say, you walked into this with such this determination it's going to work, but it is pretty incredible when you audit and actually look that like back at your journey. And I hope that you often do and think, hey, I did that and took a chance on myself in a big way, because stories like that just should constantly be celebrated. But as you're doing this, as you say, the peak and the height of it, all of a sudden we end up in the pandemic. So, what did that mean for your business at that time? And how did you navigate those uncharted waters at that point?
Yes, that was tough. So, so I like so one good thing and then one bad thing. So the good thing is we had been doing on-demand fitness for already 10 years when the pandemic came because we had transitioned the DVD business into an online business. So we were doing that subscription video library program, business model since 2012. So we were, I guess 8 years into it at the time. And it was a full-on business. At the time, though, it was only 10% of revenue, but it was 30% of profit. And when the pandemic came, we just put all of our energy in that. I mean, we had to. We didn't have many options. So anyone that I was able to keep on the team, we all just became, whereas maybe a few people were focused on that product, now all of us were focused on that product. So that helped us. And I don't even take credit, like everyone was working on online, but it doubled, even maybe went up 2.5 times or something during the pandemic, but as they all did. So I think we did have a good product and the team got very smart very quickly. So I do give a lot of credit to us, but it was sort of just like, every single day someone was signing, every single, actually like 10 minutes, I think someone
Yeah,
was
no
signing up.
doubt.
And I think it speaks to like sort of the classic nature of the brand because we had already been around for about 15 years. So I think at that time, people were going back to kind of what was tried and true. I mean, people definitely wanted to experiment on YouTube, et cetera. But if you had a favorite trainer, you were calling that person up and working out with them online every day. If you had a studio, that's where you went. If you used to go to a studio and then you found out that they had on demand, you went there too. So we were just lucky that we had been there for a long time. So we were kind of a trusted resource with expertise in that market. So we were very, very fortunate. At the time, but not net fortunate because at the same time I was closing all of the
Yeah.
studios. So that was a good story, but unfortunately, we closed a lot of studios, and I called it very early. I actually started closing the studios permanently that summer. So I only waited about, I think the first move out was in June, maybe 2020. So I just thought that this is not going to go away. I didn't know for sure that it was going to last in New York. We were closed for a year. I did not expect to be closed for a year, but I thought we would be closed for maybe 6 months. So I just unfortunately had to restructure everything and close down a lot of studios in preparation for that. And then sadly, I was even wrong. People thought I was very conservative, but turns out I wasn't even conservative enough. But I
Right.
closed, but I permanently 100% sent in surrender letters and got out of almost everything.
Wow. Wow. I mean, the proactive nature, though, considering there was no blueprint for where you were heading, I mean, you look at it now and you're like a blessing that that call was made as early as it was, but very difficult as an entrepreneur. But thank goodness you were already playing in that digital space because you saw so many people trying to scramble and pivot as quickly as possible, which a lot of people did as well as they could. But it's another thing to say, I already have the infrastructure here. And we're going to loop later in the conversation as to why you were advocating on Capitol Hill, because I'm sure that story right there is a big reason as to why the voice in the fitness industry is important. But I know that you do a lot of mentorship and consulting in the space now. So I'm curious, because we talked about growth when you were coming up and everything was more the traditional media and having to do that legwork in that capacity. But now there's so many modalities out there and so many choices, and it is such a competitive landscape. So what would you say to entrepreneurs and startups that are trying to enter in this competitive space? What would be the biggest core values they should have?
It's a great question. And I think there's room for new. Every I've been in this business now 18 years, and everyone always says, "Oh, it's so crowded." It's always crowded. Even when it wasn't crowded, we thought it was crowded, and now it's crowded, but it probably could be more crowded. I think the worst time to open a studio, I think, would have been actually in New York, like or LA, that the markets that I knew was like 2016, 17. That those were terrible times because ClassPass was really competing a lot for client wallet share. So that was a bad time. And then who would have known you got hit with the pandemic? So you were hardly got your tread, your clientele going, and you're already closed down. So I think a lot of studios made it, thank goodness. But that to me seems like a hard time. This does not seem like a hard time to open a business, because I think a lot of people are coming back, and there's so much more curiosity around fitness, and people are interested in modalities, and they even know these words like longevity, and like people didn't even know what those words were. It was just skinny and fat. Like those were like
Oh,
two
true. I
words.
talk about that all the time, which I'm like, that didn't do the industry a lot of favors. Luckily, it is changing, that consumers are more educated and the industry is more aligned in what they're communicating. But 100%, consumers not only have different language around it, they're demanding these things.
Completely. They want safe exercise, they want expertise, they want credentials. So I think if someone wanted to start a studio now, I and I kind of think this is a little unfortunate, because I think there's a difference between your entertainment ability and your ability to teach a great class or run a great business. I do think though now it is important to be an entertainer in some way on social media. So the studios that I see that have done well, which I don't even realize. Like I'll know it's doing well, and then I'll find out that the founder has like a million people following her or something. I was like, oh, I thought this was just a yoga studio. They're like, no, 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 it's so and so, and she's like famous, and then she opened a studio.
Mm,
So that, and I don't want to sound like that's bad. It's just I didn't. It used to just be like I have a great method and I'm smart,
right.
and I was able to raise some money, so now I'm going to go open a studio. Like I'm not on social media. I think I post like for my kids' birthdays and maybe one other time, or like a graduation party or something. Good thing I have children, because I have something to celebrate on Instagram. But I don't just say like I'm having blueberries for breakfast. Like I'm just not that type of a person. I think now, though, you kind of have to be comfortable with that. And a lot of people are. So, like, that's fine. I don't think, but I do see that there is a marriage between your, what would be considered like your personal life or your personal journey on Instagram and your studio success. Not always. I just want to point that out, that that's been a strategy that I have seen. Um, and again, I didn't even know. Like I just thought this was a great studio, and then I go look at the founder on Instagram, and they're like have like 300 comments for every post. I'm like, oh, she's famous. Like I had no idea. But it doesn't have to be that way, for sure, because the ones that are the scaled, like the Barrys and the Salt Cores, those do not have a person. I mean, of course, the founder's well known, but those do not have a founder behind it. So I'm kind of saying two things. Like if you want to have one successful studio and make a splash, I do think you have to look at it holistically, and people want to know a bit more about the founder, and that will just add to your success. It's not necessary. I just think it adds to your success. At the same time, though, the ones that have been very successful with 5, 10, 20, 100 studios do become more corporate, and less so as the founder story, more as the client is the hero, and the brand is growing because there's demand for it, and the focus turns from the founder to the client. And once you can get the hero to be the client and not the founder, then you can scale. But sometimes the founder just has to be the person. Luckily, between Tanya and I, she's the face of the business. Like I did a little bit of press, but mostly it was her, and I was very comfortable in that role. I like to be in the back, not in the front. So it's just something that has to be considered when you're starting a business. Like, what role do you want to have, and how public do you want to be?
I think, I mean, both those takes are so valuable. And I kind of feel like a good example, although not in a boutique studio space, but we just saw what happened with Peloton, and three of their
Hmm.
major instructors were making an exit. And it ended up huge news on forums of people that champion Peloton, but then also on the business side, because you're like, they are taking a large audience with them. And I mean, even as a company, when they started out, it makes you wonder how much they thought these individuals would blow up to the degree that they have, because they are celebrities within themselves. So that is such good advice. In addition, obviously, you do communicate with a lot of founders and people coming through that startup phase. So what are some of the most common challenges that they're facing in 2024? Because the good news is we have seen that in-person fitness pick up in this
Hmm.
beautiful way. So there is an appetite in the space without question.
Yes, I would say, and I went through all of this myself. It's what's the right strategy, and it is common and welcomed and um, a good idea to experiment in a lot of different areas. Like, maybe we're going to try a yoga class, and maybe we're going to add one of these on Sundays, or we're going to add this on Tuesday. And I know a guy who wants us to come over here and do this thing, and that's fine, and that should be done. But you have to let it go at some point if it's not working. And sometimes I think, like 3 to 5 years in, let's say, a brand or company has like accumulated a lot of just like toys or ideas of that they're doing that don't really bring in money, and they probably cost a lot more time than you think, because like maybe only one person knows how to do the thing, and like it sounds fun, but it's complicated. Like retail, like clothing, it's fun. Everyone likes to buy clothes, so I've seen companies spend way too much time like on designing the perfect tank top, and they sell like five of them just
Right.
because. And it's not because people don't like their brand. It's because Lululemon is next door,
Yeah.
or there was a sale on Aloe and they just bought the thing, like, walking down the street. Like, it's just hard to compete. They could love you to death. They just might not want to buy your tank top because they have like 100 tank tops already. So it's, but it's fun to do retail, and we've always done retail, and and then it's just a matter of saying like, I know, but like, you still need to do it, or can we just have one person in charge of it, or can you spend less because look at all that inventory? And that's just one example of like, maybe there's retail, or maybe there's some specialty class that you're only doing some of, or maybe you're doing a pop-up, and actually after a year it's not that popular anymore, because that's pop-ups are only supposed to pop up and then they pop down, but sometimes people have pop-ups for like years. So, and I've been through all of this, and it's saying no. So it's being able to say, if you're going to do this, what can you not do? So, um, and here's the interesting part. I think at the end of the day, the businesses that can expand and scale successfully are actually the most boring businesses out there. Like Barry's a huge fan. They do the same thing all day long. They make the shakes, you go to the red room, you leave, done. They tried, I think, biking. That didn't, I'm not sure if that took off the way they wanted it to. Like, they've tried different things, but they always know just to go back to their core business. And solid core, great business. Reformer, you get on it, you get off, you go home. Like, that's it. And and someone might say like, oh, but I want to have a clothing brand, and I want to do retreats in the Maldives, and I want to have a podcast. Awesome. But is that scaling your business? Is that growing your business? Or is that just kind of fun for you? And maybe it's a shiny toy that you should do on your own, and don't enlist your whole company in it. Like, you can just do it. So sometimes you can even separate yourself from your company and do those fun things somewhere else. You don't always have to bring your whole company along. So those are the things that I've seen, and it's all natural, and all you have to do is scale back to scale up. And it's hard to do that sometimes because everything you've been doing is so fun.
Yeah, it's absolutely fabulous advice, because that no can feel so hard, and especially when you're starting and maybe you haven't quite gotten your momentum yet. It can be very tempting to then think, how can I switch this up and add this or that? Whereas if you just keep going and delivering well on what you've created there, the reward definitely could and should come if you've got a strong formula there. For yourself, though, we started the conversation here saying that we met in the halls of Capitol Hill, and in sharing your journey, scaling and moving a business through COVID, I know for many operators that really brought to attention how disjointed the industry was in regards to having a united voice. And when it came to a voice, especially from a policy perspective, we weren't really being heard to much of a degree. So, why was it important for you to take part in the Capitol Hill fly in? And what was your experience like?
I think I just couldn't go the year before, but I was invited the year before and I couldn't go. And so I had like a year to think about doing this one. And it wasn't a big ask. It's only 2 days and I was happy to do it. And I was disappointed that I couldn't do the one before, but I was thinking again because I had to make a little bit of a schedule change to go this time. And I was like, oh, well, do I really need to go? And I thought, I was such like I can be very vocal with my opinions and for good or bad. And I was so vocal, whether it was with friends or publicly or, with just like the Boutique Fitness Summit, like whoever would listen, I would really talk about how we were so left behind. And I was leaving voicemails for the people I was supposed to leave voicemails for Congress people. I was doing all the things I was supposed to do, and nothing was happening. And I felt like since I was so vocal and kind of a pain in a lot of people's sides, I
As you
guess.
should have been well
Yeah, as I
warranted.
should have been. I was like, I should go. I mean, I was like, how could I not go? Like, I was the one that was like going crazy all those times. So I went, and I think the group did a wonderful job. The Health and Fitness Association did a wonderful job. So that it was, I found it to be a successful trip. I learned, and I don't, I think people know this. It was just my first time doing this. That it's very hard to get the ear of the government, like very hard. So we were having these meetings, and people were very nice and lovely and nice conversations. Um, but I don't like it wasn't like they were like, yes, 100% I agree with you. It was like, yeah, no, I'll give it some thought. Like you're gonna just give it some thought that it's probably a good idea to promote health and wellness in America. Oh yeah, give it some thought. Like I think everyone should do it, but some people are not sure. And these people are from all over the country, and some people work out and some people don't. So I think we have a long way to go. So it was a positive trip, and I'm really glad I went. And it was eye-opening in that this still seems sort of optional for a lot of people. And as
Yeah,
long as you have like, the pharma world, I don't
1000%.
know. Yeah, I don't know if it's like a seesaw, but it's like, okay, like, are we really going to commit to
They have a lot of
fitness?
dollars and they have been a united force for a long time, and I speak to that candidly on here often, but I think stories like yours, it's an honest opinion and it's not wrong. A lot of times you're speaking to a staffer and just hoping that the notes actually move up the chain, but I think it does speak to the importance and the shift that's happening in the industry, which is really exciting to see that there is this unification of the messaging. Because as you
Yeah.
said before, when you started out, the two options were like skinny or not, like the advertising, that's what facilities, it's just where we were at. And it
Hmm.
has come a long way. And now it's wonderful to hear everyone on the same page within the industry, really touting mental health, social health, physical health, and not just as a marketing tactic. It's like this is scientifically proven information. And we're in a society with a loneliness epidemic and a mental health crisis and a physical inactivity crisis. So we're behind something that's very obvious. I think it's just the momentum, just like starting out a
Yeah.
studio and having that repetition formula or that boring formula. Same tactics have to be utilized here. So kudos to you to at least carving out the time and space and continuing in that advocacy work. I'm curious as we wrap up here because I know you've got a little mission to go to, and I'm in my little studio in the heart of this heat wave with very little to actually no AC. So, what has been the best mentorship advice that you have received along the way as you've gone on this journey that wasn't necessarily the initial path you were going to take?
Yeah, I would say this advice I think is could be someone could take it personally or could take it from a business standpoint. And I was actually a former employee of mine just sent me back this advice that she heard me give to someone, saying that she's been using this advice now that she's such a busy working mom and so successful. And someone once said to me at Morgan Stanley, And in the context of what she said, it was about raising a family and working, these 12 plus hours a day. And she said that, and I think I asked her the same question, like, how do you do it? And she said, everyone gets my attention, just not all at the same time. And I feel like even in business, like, forget the children and all that stuff, even just in a business, you have different employees, you have different departments, you have marketing, you have operations. AC could break, which is happening all over Manhattan right now. You have a studio problem, you can have a marketing problem. I have franchisees that, are calling. So it's just like today, this is going to be my focus. And then tomorrow is going to be another focus. It just can't all be at the same time. And that tends to relax me a little bit and focus me. So it's not that anyone doesn't get my attention. You just get it when it's appropriate to get the attention. So that I would say, and that, I mean, I really think that's professional advice too, because you can really get yourself in a tizzy. And I am a list maker. I have like notes and notes and notes and notebooks, and everything is written down. And I can overwhelm myself with like, oh my goodness, I have so much to do, because we have the international side. We're also in Philadelphia, Brooklyn, and Hoboken, and we just opened another studio, and I'm thinking about expanding some more. So I could definitely drive myself crazy. If I wanted to, I could go completely crazy. But I just somehow like take it step by step. And like one week, something's really important. And then maybe another week, something else is important.
That's such good advice. And I think it goes back to what you were saying before earlier as well, that power of the no. I mean, or not right now kind of thing is absolutely something that we should feel empowered to communicate. What's next for you, Jennifer? Because you were just saying there are just like more openings. So I can't imagine you're
Yeah.
slowing down based on who you are.
Yeah. Well, we are, I mean, I think so. I do love consulting with other businesses, and usually it's a business that might have a few studios. So they've proven success, and now they want that next level. Like, how do I organize my team, or how do I think about expanding to another city, or hiring the right people? Like all of that, I love, love, love. And then on the physique side, which I love also, we just so I closed down all of the studios we used to be in, and I've opened up two new ones that are different and smaller and just better. And so I think I'll continue on with that business model. I'm no longer franchising, but I'm still doing international expansion. We have another studio opening in the fall. I think international is my focus, and then New York City, and making sure that clients are happy and coming back, and retention, like really focusing on client retention and building the community that we used to have. And it is all coming together. I think 2024 has been great. And it's just, I think the fitness, I think we're back. I think though we still need to understand that people are still working out online with maybe their pre-COVID teacher that they love. Like people are still doing an assortment of exercise programs. So maybe if they came to you 5 days a week, they're coming to you 2 times a week. That's just how that goes, and that's fine. So you just need to get more new people in. But the habits that were established are established. Like so that's something we've learned. But the good news is I think people are still working out a lot, and the fact that someone's working out in the kitchen with their 2019 fitness instructor, like go girl, like that's awesome.
Well, that's the thing. Like at the end of the day, it's about people moving, and
Yeah.
we've got our doors open to welcome them in, and understanding the appetite of the post-pandemic consumer. They are coming back in droves. They may just like a variety of things, but absolutely that means have the door open, create that member experience. And if it's strong, then they are going to be those ones that are coming back, or be like yourself that just kept going and going till you decided to own the whole thing. So which I think is just such a wonderful story. I so appreciate you carving out some time with me
Thank you,
today to
Krissy.
share that. And I hope that we have the opportunity to cross paths once again in the future.
Yes, thank you. So good. Great to meet you, and thank you for having me.
You've just listened to the All Things Fitness and Wellness podcast, hosted by Krissy Vann. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry insiders and influencers. Together, we're on a mission for everyone to live a life fit and well.